Before I begin my talk today, I wanted to show there has been a number of questions about things I said last night. I wore a t-shirt here on Yom Kippur, and just so everyone could see, people had asked what it means. We got Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old, and it says, "Listen to the scientists." For those of you also were wondering what this meant, I saw Kyle, our head maintenance, was wearing it. It says, "Here I am, send me." Some of you still have them on your leaflets. And that's a verse from Isaiah, where God asks for someone who's going to go forward to solve the problems in the world. And Isaiah says, "Hineni shlachani." Here I am, send me. And the goal is to put this on your dashboard and to go out and make real change. Use it as a reminder that all of us have a capacity to do that. Okay. So, Shana Tova. I'm going to stand over here so everyone can see because I need to use my hands a little bit. Okay, let's see how I'm going to do this. Okay. There are so many ways which we can show hate in this world. Some of you are familiar. If I go like this, especially with an angry face, you're probably going to know a little bit what I'm doing. What about if I go like this? Does anyone know this symbol? This is one of the hate groups out there, this 4 and 3. Or how about what I call kind of a Spock? This is another one you might have seen. You put this over here. But even more disturbingly, has anyone seen this symbol? What does this mean? Okay, not anymore. This means white power. Last week, the Anti-Defamation League put in 36 new hand signals that are used for hate. 36, which for the Anti-Defamation League, everyone understood 36 means double high. The doubling of the number 18, our number of life. How ironic it is. And I saw this in action in the Buffalo News this week. I was looking at one of the articles, and it described a family's visit to Universal Studios in Orlando, and they were looking through their pictures. They had taken a picture by a character I've never heard of from Despicable Me called Felonious Gru. Actually, I think he's one of the ones in the last Despicable Me. But apparently, he was quite despicable because he put his hand on the 6-year-old's shoulder and he made this symbol like that. And they noticed it, partially because of the ADL, and were very disturbed to see that in their family pictures. Just last week on Rosh Hashanah, Temple Beth Zion, right down the street, received a picture of a caricature of a Jew with different slogans on it, and luckily people were able to step in and to take action, and nothing further happened. But it seems like this type of occurrence is happening more and more often. I talked to the Fines right before the service, Deborah and Ed, and they told me just in Germany 2 days ago there was an incident right by a synagogue over there in Germany. Jonathan Greenblatt, who is the head of the Anti-Defamation League, said this past June, "Here's a snapshot of what has happened over the past half a year. Attempted arson attacks against a Chabad house in the suburbs of Boston, an unexploded Molotov cocktail thrown in a shul in Chicago, kids taunting their Jewish classmates with Heil Hitler and drawing swastikas on lockers, not just in one school or one state, but in schools across the country. Cemeteries desecrated, synagogues vandalized, museums violated, and almost daily reports of a Jewish man or woman being verbally harassed or physically attacked in Brooklyn." He continued, Now, in my position, I deal with these statistics and stories behind them every single day, but make no mistake, I know this is not normal. This is something we have not seen for decades, for generations. Here at Shir Shalom, we talk about this, and Bruce often says, we are a welcoming community, but hate is not welcome here. I love it when Bruce says that. And we have, in our front, and I'm sorry I took it off, we have this sign you might have noticed, hate has no home here. And sometimes we think of hate as being out there. Hate has no home here in this building. We'll keep it on the outside. But on this day, we know that we also say this, hate has no home, and we mean it also here. We try to keep hate at bay, even from our own hearts. And you might be thinking, well, hate doesn't exist here in our community. We're a loving community. So I'm going to give you an example to show you how easy it is to spring up in the world, in this world, in this room. So I have here Chizki that I showed you last year. This is our buffalo, and it gives us a warm feeling to have Chizki in the room. It's a sign, as I said last year, of buffalo. Now, in a couple of weeks, this will mean more, but I also brought with me this from my hometown team. Sorry, Tide. I will be going to the game in a little bit, and if I wear this, if I take this to the game, everyone will be cheering. If I wear this to the game, which I don't think I'm necessarily going to do, people will be very upset. For those of you not sports fans, this is the Philadelphia team, the Eagles, and we'll be competing against us. See, now you understand. See, exactly my point. So hate is not always as far away from us as we think. Sometimes it is right in here. And we spend this day on Yom Kippur trying to use strategies to get it out of here so that we can really love and be together as a community. So before I explain how to get rid of it, a little bit about why it's there in the first place. First, a rabbinic understanding. For the rabbis, it boils down to a basic flaw in the human structure. The rabbis understand that there is something in this world that some of you are familiar. It's called Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara it's called the evil inclination. Only actually, it's not evil because we need it. It's part of what goes into, well, making other human beings and also making anything in this world. The evil inclination, this Yetzer Hara, is what inspires human beings, but it also can lead them astray. And the rabbis tell a story, actually in the tractate of the Talmud, called Yoma, which has to do with Yom Kippur. And the story is about a group of rabbis who decide they're going to go get rid of the Yetzer Hara. It's Yom Kippur. We don't need it here. We'll just get rid of it. So they do what rabbis do, just like what we're doing here. They fast. They fast not for 1 day or 2 days. They fast for 3 days. And finally, God says, all right, I've had enough. So God sends the Yetzer Hara out of the Holy of Holies in the form of a fierce lion. Not a American bison, but a fierce lion. So they immediately put the lion in jail to decide what they're going to do. And they're ready. They're ready to get rid of it. But one of the rabbis, it says in the Talmud, he says, you realize that if we kill it, meaning the lion, the Yetzer Hara, the world goes down. So what does that mean? Well, they explain, because they wait 3 days again. 3 is the magical number. And they're going to decide after that moment. And they go looking on these 3 days for eggs to eat. And they find not a single egg in all of Israel. In other words, that this Yetzer Hara, which is supposed to bring hate and evil into this world, also has stopped them from being able to get their eggs in the morning, which is not a fun thing. So the rabbis believe there's a Yetzer HaTov and a Yetzer Hara, the good and the bad inclinations that sit on our shoulders. And we know this from Mickey Mouse. Because if you've seen, remember the old Dickie, and I'm afraid my kids don't even know this reference, so that's really scary. But Donald Duck, of course, has the devil Donald and the good, the angel Donald, and they argue with him and they try to encourage him. That is kind of the Jewish version of why hate exists and why it's hard to get rid of. Now, ironically, actually, the scientific version, which I'm also going to tell you, is not so dissimilar. They also believe in kind of two different parts of the human psyche. And I get this from Jonathan Haidt. His name, I think, is pronounced more like height, but I think it's kind of cute that his name is Haidt when I'm talking about hate. Okay, so he has a book, Righteous Mind, and he talks about the impulses that we have inside of us. He talks about two animals. The first is a chimpanzee, and this chimpanzee, according to him, is the most selfish animal in the world. If you might go to the zoo, you like watching the chimpanzees, you think, well, they're doing something altruistic. No. Anything that they've ever done, they've proven a chimp is always doing it only for its own satisfaction. On the other side, the Yetzer HaTov, if we will, this good impulse, is the tiny little bee. And why is that on the other side? Because a bee will do anything for its hive. It's completely a selfless creature. So we have these two different things. And the problem, it's not this even talking in our ears like we have in the Jewish version. He would say that 90% of us is the chimp, and 10% of us is the bee. And you might say this is not a very fair fight. If we're going to have the chimp standing on one side of us screaming ooh, 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 in our ear, and the bee buzz it a little bit, maybe we're a little afraid of it telling us what to do, that's probably not going to convince us to act the way that we want. But we actually crave the bee. There's something about the bee that transforms us as human beings. And he quotes Emil Durkheim, who talked about something called the hive switch, or what he also, I love this word, collective effervescence. That there's something at the bee that we can be transformed in rooms just like here, where we don't feel like individuals, but we feel part of a group. And he writes, the very act of congregating, what we're doing today, is an exceptionally powerful stimulant. Once the individuals are gathered together, a sort of electricity is generated. Isn't that what you feel right now? From their closeness, and quickly launches them to an extraordinary height of exaltation. And Haidt, in his book, quotes an army officer who says that while they're in the army, they don't feel like an I. They always feel like a we. It's wonderful, right? It's wonderful to be like a bee. And it's exactly what we hope to achieve. But like the Yetzer Hara, this evil inclination, it can also be used against us. Not only do religions and sports teams take advantage of this bee, but so do dictators and evil people in this world. The tendency to pick sides pertains to so many different aspects of our lives, our nationalities, ethnicities, religions, and even synagogue affiliations. While some of this can be just playful banter, it is easy to verge on the destructive. Hate tentacles are long, and none of us are immune. So now that we know a little bit from the rabbinic perspective and the scientific perspective where hate comes from, how do we get it out of here? So on Yom Kippur, we're given clear guidelines on how to keep hate at bay. First, we apologize. That's always a good thing, because our instinct sometimes works against us. We're supposed to apologize not just for the things we know that we've done wrong, but also for the things that we don't even know that we've done wrong. So much of our behavior is based on suppositions and assumptions. Simple gestures and words can mean so much, right? We offend even without realizing it. The tradition in Judaism is to go up to anyone and everyone that we encounter and say, if I have ever done anything wrong, please forgive me. Secondly, if at all possible, and it's not always possible, we forgive. Not necessarily for grave offenses, but for the smaller daily variety. We forgive not only one another, but more importantly, because I think that that's key to getting hate out of our heart, we forgive ourselves as well. And third, we do what we do here. We remember that we are a we, not just an I. We exist as part of a group. As Rabbi Dania Ruttenberg tweeted in an August tweet, our liturgy is written in the first person plural, not I, we, because all of our faiths are tied up together. It's not about me, my personal individual spirituality, but us, who we have been individually as part of the collective and as a collective. You might not have noticed it, but it's actually, as Danya alludes to, it's embedded in our prayer. And you probably have heard it, but you didn't necessarily know what it was. It's two Hebrew letters that we say quite a bit, a nun and a vav, nu. Have you heard that in our service? Nu. It's at the end of a lot of our prayers, and it means we. We say it in Ashamnu, Hashivenu, return to us, and Aleinu, we are responsible. Each of us is made B'Tselem Elohim. This is the most important Jewish principle, in the image of God. Each of us deserves each other's love and respect. And later today, we're going to read the most famous and important line in the Torah, the Golden Rule, V'ahavta l're'echa kamocha. We shall love your neighbor as yourself. Re'echa, this neighbor, is not just your direct neighbor across the street. It's in other words, someone that you know well. These are people who are different from you, the stranger in your midst, maybe even the Eagles fan. People that don't share our political or views or cultural patterns, the one you have always been taught to hate. In order for society to work the way it is supposed to, we must go beyond our boundaries to love the person who is different from ourselves. So now back to our sign. Hate has no home here. The dueling impulses inside our heads, the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov, the chimp and the bee, will try to pull us on different sides, telling us the people on the other side of the fence are wrong. We must not allow this thinking to take root in this room. So what is the solution? How do we make okay, okay? How do we go back to doing the things that show that we love and respect one another? So we make our own collection of signs and symbols, and we turn what I say the Spider-Man symbol into the symbol for love. This is what we do in our family. You'll see our family do this quite a bit. This is the sign language. Or, I really love you. That's what I really love you. Or how about, I hear you. I understand you. There are so many ways to express hate in this world. But there are also so many, many more to express love. It's up to us to use these tools to our advantage. And it's time we say to hate that not only does it not have a home out there, but in here, in our hearts as well. May we all be written and sealed in the book of life, an easy and meaningful fast. And as Brian said, I offer to all of you. Take a moment, give each other the I love you or whatever symbol that you use in your own family. Show each other.